Peace and love, everybody. This is Ayana the Model coming back with another episode of Sex Talk. This Sex Talk is with Grammy Award winning WALSHY Fire, who is a part of the music group Major Lazer. I'm waiting for him to hop on so we can, of course, get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. I am excited for a talk, especially having another talk with a male. And getting a different perspective than I usually get when I speak to a lot of the other guests who were speaking to me about their sexual experiences, especially speaking to a lot of experiences that belong to women and female identified women as well. So, thank you all for coming through. I am really excited. As soon as he hops on, we're going to get started. And I'm going to see if I can also send a request as well. Hey.
All right now. All right.
How are you?
I'm good, So let me just do a few things. I want to first
fix your...
Yeah, man, fix up my little light there. I'll see what I'll go on. And then I might want to use my earphones.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Not technical difficulties.
Hello. Do you hear me better, or should I use it?
Either way.
Okay.
You were
all right.
kind of loading for a second there, but
yeah, this thing was like, shout out to my Daily Paper earbuds. I do want everybody to support Black-owned business. They did a collaboration with Apple, so I have my Daily Paper earbuds, and yeah, man, vibes.
All right,
What's up? Yeah, man, we're here. Yeah, and I'm gonna continue to see if I can fix this light just a little bit. I want the light to just be a little bit lower, so that it's actually hitting my face and not just my forehead bright, which I don't mind. The size and shape of my forehead, I understand. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit bigger than most people's forehead. But if I can get it a lot lower, then let's see if I can just. But go ahead, man. Everybody, roll in, share the link. We need everybody in this chat. We're gonna talk. Yeah, lower. Let's see.
Through you getting a lot of love in the comments. Big love.
Oh yeah, my big up love to everybody. Shout out to everybody that was here for Miami Carnival. All right, I wish I could hold this here. I need something a little bit higher. Let me see if I can put this on top of a box.
Are you manually right now?
Am I what?
Manually holding the light right now?
No, but I'm holding my phone. So I'm trying to see if I can I'm going to get a bunch of books and see if I could just make something happen here. Okay. But yeah, go ahead. If you want to explain to everybody what we're about to do today.
Yeah, because I'm sure the followers are in for a treat. So for everyone rolling in, thank you for joining us as he gets his lighting set up. We are going to get started right after he does all of those.
I'm ready. We can start.
We are on our 12th episode of Sex Talk, which is a series that I created a while back to promote an event that I was having about sexuality and sensuality and sex talk. And then as that event came and went, a lot of people were saying that they really enjoyed the talks, that they wanted to keep it going, and I was just like, you know what, it sounds like a good idea. So it's now become a podcast. It's on all podcast platforms. I usually post the videos also on YouTube, and I have them here on IG, on Instagram. And I just like to talk to people about their version of their sexual journey, because I think that is very enlightening. I am aiming this series to find out a lot about the taboos that people are kind of not even hiding, because the people who are very open to speak about this are not hiding, but they probably don't have the opportunity to speak about this type of thing on a daily basis. And I think that it will encourage other people to have camaraderie and to resonate with things that is said. I was really excited when you asked me on the show because I think that having a male perspective is dope. I've had a couple during this series, and I also had a gay male perspective on the earlier series as well. So on the earlier episodes of this series as well. So I really like the fact that you're, you know, a little bit older. You're not super young. You're also a, you know, male identified man, and you probably have certain experiences that are just going to connect to a certain type of viewer that that because I'm a Black young woman, I don't connect with. So I'm really excited to talk about these things today.
Mm-hmm. I'm with it.
So let's get right into it. What is your relationship to sex?
I mean, that's such a broad question. I don't know how to even answer that.
Whatever comes to mind, because it's supposed to be extremely vague so that wherever the conversation takes you, that's what we roll with.
Yeah, but you know, my relationship to sex is probably changed so much in life that the answer again would be just, you know, from start till now, it'd be totally different.
What would you say it started as?
I mean, it started as a young man in Miami during the Two Live Crew, Uncle Luke era. Yeah, Booty Shake era. So having what I think, growing up in a city that I think probably overexposed young kids to sex, I think creates a lot of early deviancy. And so, you know, I grew up when girls got trainers ran on, you know, and that was normal. You know, we talking about real crazy stuff, you know. Not that I participated, but that's what was everybody was doing. It was normal. And it was directly related to music and to you know, I think everything starts with the crack era, and so I think a lot of that disappearance of fathers and mothers from the home pairs, you know, exactly with the deviant music and then the deviant behavior.
How has that changed for you over the years then? From that, but that I feel like that's very broad still. Like I still would want to get your particular answer, like going back to the earlier stages, like since you were navigating life in that era where it was a Two Live Crew, where it was, you know, the extension of the crack epidemic, especially with Miami being a cocaine capital, like what happened around that time for you specifically, even though those
not for me. Nothing happened for me. Thankfully, I was able to dodge a lot of bullets. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I definitely have two sisters that had early pregnancies before they were 15. I have my father had 12 kids, so you know what happened to everybody amongst my family varies. You know, my sister, my older sister, also began to do the drugs. So the life began, you know, I mean, I grew up in Carroll City. For everybody that's not from Miami, that's a particular area in Miami that has a set of issues. And so, you know, I had to encounter those issues. But I want to say, when you have a lot of issues, sex is not the most important thing. You're trying to navigate survival. And so, you know, my answer to that is, yes, I didn't get involved in a lot of the things, a lot of the deviant behavior, because I was navigating survival. And you know, I'm glad that I was able to get through it and be the person I am today.
And over time, as you went, well, when would you say you got out of navigating in survival mode, if you feel like that has happened for you? And how has that transition changed the way that you interact with the world, especially putting more emphasis, effort, and focus on something like your sexuality, where it's now different because you're not trying to just stay alive, you're also trying to live?
So I would answer that and say, no, I've never gotten out of survival mode. If it's not for me, it's for other people. So I've put the whole weight of an entire family on my back. And I mean that. Like, I have the entire family on my back. I'm definitely going to be the one um, that I believe everyone is going to tap into when it's time to take care of everybody. And so that has allowed me again to avoid a lot of the dumb stuff because I have to constantly think about what I'm doing with my time and my energy. And so I've done very well with being able to say, this is not that important. That is very important. And so, yeah, I do everything I can to try to make sure that I've prioritized life and put the things that really matter way over any moments that won't matter.
Mm-hmm. So do you see sex and sexuality as something that doesn't necessarily matter to you?
It's lower on the totem pole for sure. It's lower on the totem pole. I believe that I watch my generation, I watch the generation after me, I watch the generation after that, I watch this new generation go through a lot of the things that are put for their failure. And I've watched so many of them fail, man. Like I said before, if you were growing up in the 90s, you know about running trains on girls, whether you did it or not, right? But you know about it. And that means females as well. They know about it. And I can't think of what that would have done to the mind of a young woman, of a high school girl, of a junior high school girl. I have no clue what that would have done to somebody's mind, and then how they approach the world after this thing, and how they become a parent and try to navigate their child from that thing. I've run into some of these girls that were what we would say hoes back then. Of course, back then, I think the word meant it had a lot more weight and was very destructive towards someone. If you said that towards someone, it hurt. While now I don't think it has that same weight. But back then, I say this all the time, there was always just a few hoes. There wasn't a lot. You know, the neighborhood had one. The high school had one. And everybody knew who that one was. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody would approach that particular girl with an entirely different energy because they knew who she was. And she ended up filling this role just like I think anybody else in society begins to play a role once they realize that they can maybe survive in that role and get some kind of security in that role. And, you know, whatever purpose that female felt at that time was probably centered around her sexuality. And she felt that her purpose was to be very sexual with a lot of people. And that's because she had no one else telling her that there was other things going on in life and that this one particular thing is not going to give her any level of love and happiness and joy and all the great things that can happen in life. I think eventually, of course, they snap out of it or they hit a wall, and then the real world comes down and they hopefully were able to adjust and able to pick up a better life and better life habits. But when I see them, the ones that I do know, when I see them, the majority of them have not really done anything that I would consider spectacular. I think that Most of them have done pretty just across the board, mundane, regular, basic things. And I understand, and I understand that I don't understand what that lifestyle would have done to the mind of a junior high school and a high school female. And so I'm glad that they're alive. I have a couple of them that are not alive. I have one that is living with AIDS, and she's doing very well. But I do know a couple that did not make it. And I understand this destructiveness was not what they were designed for. And there was nobody in the neighborhood to protect them. And so therefore, I, as a kid, also did not protect them. I was like, I have nothing to do with that. And I lived around the corner and could see dudes going in and out of the house all the time. But it wasn't my business. And so I stayed to myself, you know. And so I hope that that those women are doing well now. And to everyone else out there that knows exactly what I'm talking about, I definitely hope that you guys have put some prayers and some healthy words towards the universe for those people to heal from what was a regular thing in the 90s.
Yes, I feel you on that, but I feel like I wonder how much of the experiences of you watching a lot of these young girls when you were younger imprinted on you, because I feel like a lot of the like expressions that you're giving is you recurring these memories, you know. I feel like it just had like a very, very deep impact on the way that you see sexuality, because I asked you how, like, why is it that you see sexuality so low for you, or is it something that you don't seem like as, you know, high? And I think that was like one of the biggest reasons. So is your experience watching these young women do these things that, to your, correct me if I'm wrong, is what you see as degrading or demeaning that their body and their status and their energy, something that you think that sex is less on your totem pole than other things?
Again, survival. You got to look at what it is that's going to make you eat that day. Sex ain't going to make you eat that day. So I have no, I don't link me being able to see the potholes and being like, yo, let me navigate this and make sure I don't die out here, or I don't end up making really bad mistakes as something remotely bad, you know. And I kind of get that tone that somehow there's something bad here. I think I did a great job. I think my mom did a great job. I think the people in my community that were awesome people did a great job of helping those of us that did navigate the 90s navigate the 90s. I also want to say, thankfully, I was born with a level of common sense that I think helps you navigate an extremely bad situation. And I know maybe what I'm saying only can relate to people who grew up in extremely bad situations. Because if you did, then you know, man, applause is due, you know? And so there's nothing bad about saying, yeah, sex is cool. It's just not the most important thing. Especially when you're looking at how much extremely important things are out there for us to, as a self, develop and go through, and then also as a community. We get so much sex that you begin to see this become the number one thing for so many people, maybe the majority of people. And I believe that is a bad thing. I think it's a no look pass. It's an okie doke where you end up seeing this saturation of sexuality, and you're not seeing a balance to educate and understand this sexuality. And I think it all has to play together, you know? And so for me, I would say I would be more there on the balance side. You know, I want to definitely probably have conversations that educate and inspire and empower, because Leighton's sexual, you know, experience has been one of a victory, you know, of great achievement, of being able to really get through things that were built for me to not get through.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think that I definitely agree. I think that the idea of, there's a connotation, I feel like, you know, thinking about sex, especially thinking about sex when you have experienced it through very provocative and very degrading experiences. Like, there's just a way that you think about sex based on the experiences that you usually have about sex. I think that the idea of creating spaces to not only inspire people, but to empower people, to uplift people, and to educate people is really the whole reason why I created Sex Talk to begin with.
And I love it.
The whole reason why I have a film about sexuality, and that I talk about this and have been booked to do, you know, artist residencies to speak about this.
Do you mind if I interject and give you some flowers? I just want to say to everybody watching who might not be familiar with Ayan, if you go on her page, you're going to see probably some things that you might be like, oh wow, I didn't know. But it comes with the education. And therefore, you're not just seeing something blank, boom, in, out, and gone. What she does, it comes with the education. It comes with the love, right? So you're not getting something that is for you to take, use, and then never return. That's not it. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're seeing with Ayana is a lot of extremely artistic things happening. But again, the education is there. She don't have to sit here and talk. You know, this is a great thing to balance out what some people might consider a sexual Instagram page, you know. But here we are having conversation, as well as on her Instagram page, she has pictures and other things that aren't sexual that have good conversation and education happening. You should watch all of the conversations during the Sex Talk audit. Go back and listen to all of them, because you're going to probably find that they're more educational than anything else. And so I just wanted to say, as you know, just to jump in, that I'm here because I know that what you're doing is a part of what's needed to be done. And that's to add the balance. And so hopefully somebody out there will be able to say, yeah, I got a lot more than I thought I would once I heard her speak, or once I went to a show. And so definitely I want to say big up to you.
Give thanks. Give thanks. Yeah, I think that I love relationships in general. I tell people this all the time. A lot of times when people kind of ask me, like, what is it about this work, or what is it about this particular subject that's so, I guess, intriguing or interesting, or why do it? Like, what is the point? I'm interested in relationships. I think with relationships, I am observing and dissecting the way people interact with each other. And I feel like I am kind of obsessed with that in every aspect. Like, if it's, whether it's a mother and daughter, whether it's romantic partners, whether it's, you know, friendships that have been for a long time or many years, like I like to understand what is the healthiest dynamic of those things happening. And so it just leads me to become very interested in the healthiest dynamic of sexual things happening, where there is a level of agency and autonomy you have with your body and sacredness you have with your body that allows you to not do a lot of what sex looked like in the 80s and the 90s, you know, that allows you to be much more particular, much more exclusive with the way that you share yourself. And I think that's probably why I put a lot of emphasis and power and focus into sexual things, because I see it as a sacred energy exchange, which is the name of my film. Like, I see it in that particular way. Like, I grew up in the 90s in Miami, 98, early 2000s. And of course it was very different. The generation right behind yours. But I would say that it was still very apparent. Sometimes when I talk to people and I talk to them about, growing up in Miami, a lot of them say, oh, I would never raise my child here because they get exposed to too much. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's true. You get exposed to a lot, to the way that you spoke about your mother, how she raised you, how much she was giving to the family. My mom did the same thing. I think that even in Miami, even though it was absent of a lot of the bad, it was still so much that you can get into. You can get into all the drugs still. You can get to all the sex still. You can get all the alcohol still. You want to get into clubbing? Yeah, that's still here. You want to get coke? That's still here. She did a very great job of also helping me and my sisters navigate away from that. And I would say that even the family was getting caught up in some of the street stuff that really wasn't serving anybody. But I think for me, I always grew up thinking that my body had a lot of integrity, and the way that I would be navigating experiences with people just had a higher sense of integrity for me personally. And in my mind, that meant that I would be exclusive and I would wait until I thought that this person deserved something from me that I wanted to share. I didn't want it to feel like an exchange or a transaction. I really wanted to share an experience. And I feel like just having that in my mind allowed me to have sex at 21 and not 13, and just do just different things in my life that made me feel like I was in control and not just under the influence.
So my question to you, as this is your show, I know I should be asking you questions, but my question to you is, why don't we praise that behavior? I find that we have a lot of things that we allow because we will then be labeled as shaming or trying to bully people. And I hear that. But when someone is doing what you did, why do you think we're not allowed to praise that?
I don't think that we are. So I know what you mean. I was going to say that I don't think that we're not allowed. I just think that no one is privy to doing it. There is so much. I think the general information that's out there about the body and about sex is wrong information. And when you watch different things like Sex, Love, and Goop or The Principles of Pleasure, which are 2 shows on Netflix that center the education around the body or the female anatomy or just the interaction between people, you start to realize that you are 30 and you've never known what things are called on your body or things are called on your genitalia, or the fact that you should have had a certain orgasm. Just to say that the way that you're navigating life and the way that I just described is going to allow you to know a lot of these things, but it's taking so long for people to get there. I think that the idea of it being something that's not praised is that people are not taught. Everything is education. Literally every single thing is education, I feel.
So I have a theory, and I think that what happens is we do get educated, but we get educated by the people who probably shouldn't be educated.
Okay.
And that's rappers, that's movies, that's things that are completely unrealistic to how humans interact.
I agree.
When you hear, I know this one is I'm just drawing with, we hear Cardi B say, I don't cook, I don't clean, but watch how I got this ring. And then you see her go on Instagram Live and she's like, I'm lying, y'all. I love to cook. I clean. I'm not, that's just this rap thing. That doesn't translate. You never hear people say, man, well, if you don't live that life, you know that it's going to begin to become a reality for a lot of people. And they're going to want to follow that, thinking that they get a ring or they get something from whatever it is that you've told them to do. What you're saying, No one is putting that in a song. And I don't think anyone's putting that in a movie. No one is saying, and I'm trying and just paraphrase what you said. No one is saying over a beat, I have value, I have integrity, and I know that that man will need to earn this. He will need to be vetted. He will need to show me things so that I can say, all right, we're gonna do this. When the language isn't coming through the ways that people are educated now to say that, then you end up with a whole lot of again, just deviancy. You know what I'm saying? And so I think you should rap.
Long story short, make music.
You should make music, man. You should go out there and no, you know what? No, rap. You know why? Because I'm seeing other music give a lot of texture, while in rap, the ones that are the most famous, they're not really giving us a lot of texture and balance. We're not getting very big female songs that have varying topics from female rappers. We'll get a few in the R&B space. But man, I'm talking about, man, I want to see Ayana. Yeah, I want to see Ayana the rapper. You know what I'm saying? I want to see Ayana the rapper. You know what I'm saying? So that we could get and I'm talking about battle rap too. You know what I'm saying? I need you to go out there. I need you to go out there and battle rap. I need you to talk some shit in a ring and just destroy. Yeah, it'd be like, it just be nice too, but brutal. You know what I'm saying? Because if we don't have this happen, I don't think we're going to be in a good space for a while. If our communication is through music and movies, and we do not control our movies, we have one or two Black-owned movie houses. But for the most part, everything you see on Netflix, everything you see on, when you're watching, what's that new show, House of Dragons, and you see all these Black people getting burnt up, you know, and you're just like, man, we have no control in that. We are not on any tables with any control over what we look like. And so it seems to me like Ayana the rapper is needed, you know, and to everyone else in the group chat. We need rappers. We need females to rap. We need females to direct movies. We need that. And so the movie one, of course, is extremely expensive. And so go for it. But man, anybody could rap right now. That's he's feeling you. That a munch. Anyone can rap right now. Okay. It ain't taking too much talent. It ain't taking too much talent to rap. It ain't taking too much. It ain't too difficult to upload on YouTube or Spotify and get your music out there. So we need that, what you just said, over a beat, so that some young female will hear it and realize, oh, there's something in me that has value. Oh, I need to make sure I protect it. Oh, you know, no one says it, and then you just end up with a lot of repeating the same thing from the 90s, and it just keeps going up. You know, even though I will say in the 90s we did have a few rappers. You know, we had Queen Latifah, we had Lauryn Hill, we had a few to balance it out. Sorry, we had probably the majority. They were all on that. Majority in the 90s. You know, but now it's not that. You know, it's not that. Sorry to take away your show and ask you a question. You can get back to asking questions.
It's okay. I mean, I just feel like it's interesting too, because I think that like the theme and also the point that you're like really trying to drive home for a lot of the watchers and viewers is that even though this is sex talk and we can talk about how great sex is and we can talk about your story of sex, this is about how there needs to be a balance of sex first and foremost, and also like the idea that it doesn't have to be the center, you know, which is interesting, seeing as though this is sex talk and the center about this conversation is sex. But
right, but sex talk doesn't have to mean lack of education. It could be literally just education, but we talking the topic, you know, is that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that all of my questions were geared towards just your personal experiences, you know, like a lot of the questions that I asked the other people participating for have been just about like how sexuality and sensuality integrates with their work, whether they put it in whatever artistry that they do, like how much of it is, you know, reflected, whether or not they see a difference between sexuality and sensuality, like what about sensuality do they think is important, like when did they feel like that was something to navigate life through. So I don't know how, you know, relevant.
Yeah, you could, yeah. I don't think those questions gonna work for me, but I will say, you know, we are in a time where the pendulum is swinging, and there's a critical mass happening. Something is happening. People are waking up. People are actually waking up. I know. I know a lot of the times we don't really talk about male deviancy as much as we do as females, but you know, when I see a lot of young men start, so there's this one young man, I can't remember his name right now, but he has this thing called the woke rap, and he looked like he like 60 years old. And so when I saw the video of him rapping, and I saw how much traction it was getting, I started to say to myself, man, you know, something's happening. Something is happening where our cup is full of the programming. I don't think we have much more of the bullshit that we've been up to. I think maybe in my lifetime, you're going to see a bunch of people who might be saying, I'm a Crip. I'm a GD. You know, they're going to start to go, man, that's just corny. And what happens when a whole generation look at the old heads and go, y'all are corny, man, joining gangs. You just say you gay, bro. Like, what's wrong with y'all, man? Y'all are corny, man. You know what I'm saying? What happens when that becomes a reality? As everything begins, nothing remains the same. Everything changes. You know what I'm saying? And so when that happens, what I'm saying is, I think that's going to happen in my lifetime. I think that's going to happen probably not far from now. I think this kind of conversation, man, when we dig it up in 20 years, we're going to be like, yo, the music has changed. The movies have changed. Our image in media has changed. Did you watch that video, voting a fucking? You had to see it. If you don't vote, we not fucking.
No, I did not.
Man, your algorithm is fired, and if you ain't see that, shout out to whatever you happen to get. But Trina and I don't know his name. They did a song called "If You're Not Voting, We Not Fucking," and you know, you start to realize that this is puppet orchestrated, you know, and this is how white people think. Yo, this is how I get black votes. This is how I talk to black people.
Interesting.
And I think that the backlash of that, I was glad to see. There was very few people in comment sections across the board that were with it. Now, mind you, yes, I think Instagram allows teenagers on there. So yes, you still find the young people going, there's nothing wrong with this. And yes, there are a lot of adults that are still teenage minded and they have not grown up. And you see them saying, there's nothing wrong with this. But the majority of people with a healthy mind and good life experiences go, this is dumb. And we've come to the last days of this is how you communicate to us. Definitely check it out for a good laugh. But I think what I'm saying is, regardless of whatever questions you might have had, we don't even have to drag this and make it a whole, hour-long conversation. The pendulum is swinging, and things are changing. And everybody in the chat, everybody watching this replayed, put yourself in position to help move this swing. We all going to need to push this. So for the people here who are in media, who make music, who make movies, make TV shows, who write books, who write comic books, graphic novels, and all the other ways that we actually do consume media and are educated. Push that, push it, man. Begin to do what I see white people have done time and time again. And they've done it in like eras. Like there was a time where mafia movies couldn't stop coming out. Robert De Niro and the rest of those guys, man, they literally had like a movie come out every two years where it was making white Americans look heroic for their crimes. They look heroic. Breaking Bad. It's a movie about two guys who make meth. And they just got a statue over there in Arizona for that. Man, like I said, your algorithm is better than mine, man. But they got a statue for that. Yes, some people say, oh, well, they did show the downsides of meth. That's not actually what people take away from it.
Right.
What people take away from it is, wow, that was entertaining.
I was about to say the entertainment.
And entertaining means it's all right. Jeffrey Dahmer. We don't have to talk about it, but we know what it is. We know what it is when you get a handsome, popular actor to play one of the most deviant people on the planet. But we, the people who he murdered, don't boycott it. We don't go out there and say, man, we're gonna shut this down. There's no way you're gonna do that. I guarantee we will never, ever, 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 ever see a movie where Hitler is played in a heroic or in a here's his origin story way. Here's the reason why he was crazy. Here's the reason why he was sick. Because the Jewish community, they're not going to have that. You're not going to humanize him. You're not going to put him in a place where he becomes relatable. We understand why you do that with the Joker, because the Joker is a fictional person.
Yes.
And so you make the Joker a crazy guy who's a serial killer. You give him his story, but it's comic books. Yeah, we still got to have that conversation too. But okay, but for the real people who did it, ain't no way we should be allowing this. And again, the pendulum is swinging. And so I ask everybody, get behind it, push it. You see something, say something. You see something that don't stir your soul right, say something about it. And champion it. And what we need to do, and hopefully that's what the takeaway from this conversation is, we need to take back our image. And conversations like this with a person like yourself who puts forward different topics and different conversations, and at the same time is very engaging with her movement and her body and her skin. Man, that's a rare thing, because I know a lot of people just say, oh, she a hoe. I know people say that to you, but they don't, one, they probably don't say it to your face.
I'm about to say it to me, but
they don't say it to you.
Oh, they didn't say that.
But two, they haven't taken the time to understand that there is a power in the body. There is a power in the movement, right? Of which I would say our colonizer culture has put a sheet over it and been like, don't you dare move and look this way. And people like you are going, no, watch me do this and not be a hoe. And that's a fight, and that's a fight to reclaim something that was definitely taken away, because what we have now is some confusion, and we use words like ratchet. But at the end of the day, something inside that African spirit is saying, I want to dance. I want to dance, and I want to dress how I want to dress. And this shouldn't offend, but it gets confused because it then comes with drinking too much, having wild sex with anybody. And that's this empowerment and this degradation, they're not together.
Yeah.
They're not together. You don't go to Africa where people are wearing nothing and dancing exactly the same way that they do in dancehall or to booty shake music, and see them having sex with mad dudes. It's just not, the two don't correlate. You know what I'm saying? And so here in America, the two somehow mesh together, where we come up with this ratchet culture. And it's got the good of the being able to dance, which is a power. And the reason why they don't want you to dance is because they cannot. And they know that that's powerful, as well as being such a beautiful shaped person. They don't have the hips. They don't have the movement. So they want to demonize that. And then you have the side of it that's going, well, how do we get rid of this? By telling them have sex with anybody, by telling them go to the club, get wasted, do what you think is, you know, here's how you live your best life. And man, you gotta really be like, man, the two don't align.
Yeah.
You know, and so I love what you do.
Thank you. I think I agree. I think that I've had this conversation, which is so funny, with one of my best friends. Her name's Grace. We talk about like society and culture all the time. Like, what is the societal view? What is the cultural view? What are people usually doing? What do people think is right? Why do people think is right? And I think that it's true. Also, I don't know if you've seen this episode of Key and Peele, but they kind of do that. I think it was Key who was playing this young girl, and she was at this like pop awards, and she was just like, yeah, you know, I'm my new single, like, I don't know, have sex with any dude is out today, and I just want to talk to the young girls about female empowerment. And then they're just like, Key, I did what you said, and now I have herpes. Like, what do you say about that? Yeah, female empowerment, girl. Yeah. So it was this spoof on the fact that
I gotta watch that.
It's hilarious. Just because there is something to say about the expression of self and that freedom of the body doesn't mean that it is the same thing as having everybody have your body. And it's, over time, I have definitely come to, I say this all the time, I have definitely come to see my body. I've always seen my body as sacred, but there was a shift where I started to see my body in its sacredness and that connection with someone when it comes to sex as a very spiritual experience. Like, it was like a very big shift for me that happened. And although there is like so much, I think of sex work when I think about this, you know, there are certain types of sex work that I think sex work I have like full support of. I really do. And I think it's very interesting to talk about sex work when you are also talking about like this over exertion of your body, or this oversharing of the flesh, and what that means or where that comes from. Because I truly do believe that there are certain types of sex work that are probably rooted completely and totally, if not only, in empowerment. And then there's other types where it's what you're talking about now. I feel like it probably comes from that such a source of trauma and degradation that almost cannot be separated. And it allows for people to see that as the empowerment that so many people can express in so many different ways. But they believe that it is specifically expressed in this. And then you have, like you said, music about it, rap songs about it, all the things that's popular in media about it, all the things that are on TV and music videos about it. you can't watch any damn Netflix series without the first episode having sex in it. It's like, why do you have to show this now? Why do you have to show this in this way? Why
Nothing to
can't
do with
we
the
show all
story.
these things?
It's
Right,
it's just in it. It's just like
right.
this has
It
nothing to
doesn't
do with the
make any sense.
story.
No
Make no
connection.
sense. Yeah.
It's there's a level of watering down and desensitizing the act so that it has no meaning. And when that comes into play, which is the antithesis of everything that I do, that allows you to continue doing things out of trauma and hurt and shame, in the shadows, regardless of what people used to know about like certain girls back in the day, for example, it was still something that was shameful and degrading and downtrodden. And there was nothing that a lot of the men consuming, specifically talking about those experiences, men consuming these things had a high enough standard for in general, and that goes along the board. Like there was just like a very low vibration in all that, just in general. And it's very interesting to see empowerment and understand that empowerment and sex can coincide, but you having a lot of sex does not equal empowerment.
Okay, so real quick, you understand what you're saying. A lot of people call that feminism.
People have misconstrued certain words that me and my best friend talk about this all the time. And it's very interesting that you're bringing it up too, because it's one of those things that like, there's an idea and people feel some way about the idea. And because we live in a society that cares more about the feeling of the idea, it's less about what the idea actually is. There is a specific notion that is just focused on feeling as opposed to facts. And because people have a feeling about something, it doesn't really matter what the facts are. And because things are not politically correct, it doesn't really matter what the questions are of that one content that you just want to know more about. Well, what if I ask this question? What if you ask this question and we're just going to assume you are like this, then we're going to say that you are this, and we're going to say that you are canceled now because you're that. So I understand that there's a lot of politically correct words now that people say that is wrong, and also a very Eurocentric, if I dare say, white view of what feminism actually is, because there is this level of, there's like, it's almost like the women's movement that happened in decades ago. Like history is repeating itself. The things that are happening now are happening again, like the natural hair movement, back to Africa movement, natural food movement, the vegan movement, all those things were happening like the 70s with the hippies, and all those things are happening before that are happening again. And when there was a lot of the women's rights happening, that kind of happened before. Like there was this idea that the deviance that men were doing, not to say that this is just the way that we have come to this conclusion now, but it was kind of like the reflection of how it was in the past. The deviance that men are doing, we're going to do the same deviance. We're not going to just do things better as women in our specific essence that shows our power and shows our freedom and shows that, inspiration. We're going to try to do what these people are doing that's not good. And then we're going to say that that is what feminism is doing something outside of our essence just because people are doing it and it's not good, but we could all just not do good. And I feel like that is kind of where we are now. It's like the I can do bad all by myself kind of mantra where, yeah, you can call it that, but really, if we're actually talking about what it means for real, like I wouldn't call it that. That's not what I consider it. And I consider myself a feminist. And I wouldn't say that that's something that I would say and or believe, but there's so many things that are conflated. Things are conflated. Just like the spiritual person, you woke hang. There's like so many things that are very, people are making fun of it now because it's so conflated. It's commodified. It's something that is on the mainstream. It's something that mainstream people are saying, like, red flag, if she says grand rising. Like there's so many things that so many people are saying because everybody is saying it. It doesn't have a meaning anymore. And on the flip side, people are using words and using it averse from their meaning when that's not really what they mean. So yeah, people can say that, but like I think that that is incorrect.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that what we have is a big gray area now. It's just what the fuck is going on? Everyone is allowed into every conversation, and you don't realize that sometimes they take over the conversation and hijack your movement, your thoughts, because what they're talking about is just a little more interesting or brings in a little more money. It's a little bit more clickbaity. And so, yeah, when I see someone say that the do what you want, with who you want, when you want, because you can, is a part of feminism, I, a person who don't have nothing to do with feminism, still go, man, I feel like that's not right. I don't think that being a hoe has anything to do with being empowered. And I want to know, man, it feels almost like some white guy came up with that and was like, yo, just say this. Tell them just go out there and hoe, and they'll be stronger, and they'll be able to get a man, and they'll get, da-da-da. And you realize, like, somebody's up there, like, messing with everybody, and then we just got to figure it out, We got to be like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. No. Don't do this. Don't go out there and degrade or hurt yourself and think somehow in that pain that you feel that ain't right, you're becoming a better person. That's not how it works. But it's so gray right now. And again, if you say something, are you bullying? Are you attacking? Are you, if you want clear definitions, are you being a bad person for asking for clear definitions?
I think that it also kind of like when you said that your last statement, I agreed, but then I was just like, I use the word hoe. Sometimes I think it's like just the language, because I think a lot of the pushback too is the shaming of things that people have done that really is the idea of a man's. Like, a hoe is the idea of what a woman is doing coming from a male view that has now been something that should be degraded on when it comes to women. And there is an issue with the fact that there is such a superiority and double standard when it comes to that. Like, that is that idea for one. So I do believe that a lot of promiscuous sex with a lot of different people who you don't really have a connection with, but just because you have the freedom in the case to do so, it is not necessarily empowering. It could be non-restricting, but I wouldn't say that it's the equivalent of empowerment. But I still wouldn't even like call it different names, because it's not even about you labeling that has such a connotation. It's about describing what this is. Like, people can get, like I said again, people get hung up on feelings, and people get hung up on feelings because of certain words, and that's why it's important to be politically correct. But just to even like put things in layman terms, which is usually how I speak, a whole lot of promiscuous sex with a whole lot of people for very little reason is not something that I deem empowerment, and that is the way that I would describe it. Like, I wouldn't put words behind it, call it anything else.
If you had to give it a word, though, let's say you're talking to the simple-minded person who just needs a word to attach that concept to, because hoe has an attachment to it. We know exactly what you mean. You got to say nothing else. What would you call it if you don't want to use the word hoe?
I would just describe it. I wouldn't call it.
But let's again say that you need to talk to the simple-minded people, the people who don't want to hear a sentence. We live in this quick attention economy. You need to get that point out, and you need a word.
I would say that it would not be me to get that point out in a word, because that's just not me.
So I think that that's a problem, is that we can say a word is something that we don't like, but we haven't replaced it with something that is a word that gives us the definition that we do want. And so now what we end up doing is we have a bunch of words that we can't use anymore, but we haven't replaced them with new vernacular. And now it's almost like we're devolving only because the only way to express this unused word is now with long-winded sentences. And the current people can't take a long-winded sentence. And so I do think we need to say either it is what it is, or here's a new word for what it is. So for me, I'll give you I'll go back to gangs. I think if you join a gang, you are a weak man. I don't feel like I should use another word for that. I do believe, for some reason, most people will be okay with that. When we now go to the female side, we have to walk a lot more gingerly.
I feel like that's where I'm saying that, like, even though the logic does apply, like, you're using this one word, it means this one thing. This is a very particular example of what you mean when you say this word because it's loaded and it has a definition. I get that. The same thing you can use for hoe. I can see that. I'm saying that there is a difference in how you're going to receive it and how people are going to, because think about it. Even though, yeah, there's an idea that, like, okay, long-winded sentences are not going to get to certain people. I don't think that's not necessarily true. Also, I think that, like, the people who you're trying to get this message to, how are they identifying? You know, how do they see themselves? Are they going to be open ears if this is what they hear and this is how they see themselves and this is what they feel like they are? Or do they not even... You know,
so I want to say I think that's why men and women are different, and I love that we're different, and that you're going to nurture your answer, and I'm going to be blunt, and I'm going to say, man, don't join a gang. That shit is weak, and that's it. And you're going to come with a much longer-winded response, and hopefully, one of us get through. I personally will not spend the time on a long-winded response. Why? Because I am a man, and I feel like I can get the point across using these words. Yeah. So I say, do not be a hoe. I don't think I need to say nothing else.
I don't think it has anything to do with us being a man or a woman. Like me wanting to say this.
I absolutely do, because I think you're much more. You're much more.
Now, but that's
right. No. Remember now. I don't think we're talking about. I don't think we're talking about the exception to the rule. I think we're just making generic statements. And I think that as a man, I'm going to say, no, you a hoe. I think you as a woman feel a way about that. I don't feel a way about that. Yeah, we are different.
That experience. So you're not a woman, so you can't talk to a word that happens used to demean.
So we have different experiences. We are different.
Me, it's not a woman's way of describing it. It is me understanding how there can be different feels about that because of that.
And me not caring about that. You care, I do not. And I think that is an innate difference in us. I think that as a man, I have a lot less care. Well, I think you have a lot more care. And I think that you approach it with care. Well, I do not approach it with care. I approach it with, here's what I'm saying, take it, leave it, I'm out. That doesn't mean women don't do that too. Again, we're not talking about what just big generic statements, right? And I think that that's a great thing. If we both approach it the same way, that's a bad thing. I think the fact that you approach it with care and I do not approach it with care means somebody's going to listen to one of us. That's why it's so amazing that you are a woman and I am a man, and that we are not the same, and that our approach is not the same, and that our thinking is not the same. Our process is not the same. And therefore, I love the way you process and approach. You might not like the way I process and approach, but I also don't care because that's in me to not give a fuck. And I see how sometimes it gets weird when one person says anything in a man-woman separated conversation. And I understand that a woman might want us to be the same and be able to be like, no, I do this too. And I'm saying to you, but don't do it the way I do it. Do it the way you do it. Do it the way it was innately brought down from generation to generation to generation for you to do it. And I want that because somebody's going to listen to that. I don't want this big area where we're all doing things the same. If I'm speaking to a man, I know I cannot speak to a man the same way you're going to speak to a man. If I'm speaking to a woman, I damn sure know I cannot speak to a woman the way you're going to speak to a woman. She will never receive my message the way she will receive it from you. And I understand that. And I think that that's a great thing. And therefore, we have to have alignment with each other, almost like Jordan and Pippen. We got to go, yo, listen, I can't dunk this one. You're going to have to dunk this one. And you get up there, you go and dunk it. You know, we need to partner in this and not look at it as why I can't do it, or why I can't say that. Because at no point should anything be offensive when we understand that there's a team and a team needs roles. And our team has no roles. We've been out here rogue. We're just running around. In my opinion, the women have taken up slack on things that the men should definitely have taken up slack on. But we are not aligned. And when the women start to take up the slack and they actually get stuff done and they actually see that, man, maybe I don't need a man to do this. Now we've thrown off the balance. And now the men go, well, I'll just sit at home. Why? Because I'm still going to get a girl. I'm still going to have sex. She's still going to fill the fridge. If she's not demanding that I get up and get out here and be a warrior, what's the point? And so I always say that, and I know, again, what I'm about to say probably is going to offend you. But I always say, as a leader, man leading the household, everything that has gone wrong and has created this weird gender war between black men and black women falls on me. It is my fault. I am the reason why we are in conversations that can be very narcissist and can be very just disgusting towards each other. And it's because I, the man, the person who's supposed to lead the home, haven't done what I'm supposed to do. And therefore now you're doing it. And you now don't have respect for me. And now we have a big battle and issue. And we can act like it'll fix itself one day, but I think that we can actually proactively fix it. And that's by being back into roles where we say, okay, there's a lot of things that you as a woman, you're going to do that I cannot do. And there's just a lot of things as a man that I know you just cannot do. And are we okay with playing that to do this, to navigate this world? Again, I'm coming from the perspective of ghetto hood survival, you know, and I understand when I have to go out there and hunt for the food, you're going to have to do other jobs. Just saying it as archaic as possible, you know, just to get the point across. But, you know, I don't think saying things like don't be a hoe are bad. I do believe unless we figure out a new word to replace that, we're not going to be able to get past the statement to say, well, tell me why I shouldn't be a hoe. Now we get, okay, now you understood that sentence. That was cut clear. We don't have to, now that you understand that, we go into the reasons why this is an unhealthy thing to do. Why don't I join a gang? Now you've asked that question after you understood the reason. Now we get into a great conversation of why. But I do believe we have to, again, this is the man in me saying, you don't got to do this. I believe that I have to come with a very blunt, stern response to get the attention and then the focus towards what I'm saying, and then follow it up with the statements. And I don't believe everyone has to do that, but I do believe we don't have to have the same approach. I think all approaches are good.
Understood.
I actually would love to see more men on your show, because I think that, I see a lot of like the manosphere kind of shows, and I see the good, and I see why they could be taken bad. Kevin Samuels, what's the other guys, Fresh and Fit. There's another guy that I kind of like. I think he's pretty good. Mediocre Tutorials. That's him. And there's a few people, and I think that they do chase the likes and the clout, but I understand that their bills are paid by the clout. So I am never mad at the hustle. The problem is I don't see enough men saying what needs to be said without the hustle aspect. And I think that a lot of the really good points that these guys, Kevin Samuels, and all these guys say, do just get a little bit lost because somebody's going to take 3-second clip. Yeah, man, they're going to take a 3-second clip, and you're never going to hear the whole conversation. And then they're going to, and they know that. And they want that, which is also just, it's like, I hope none of them, I don't follow it up to see if they have interviews, but I hope none of them play victim. And like, why? You guys didn't even listen to the whole conversation. And it's, yeah, you want them to not. You want them to work with a 5-second clip and you go viral. And I wish we had more conversations, men and women, that weren't about trying to go viral. And we're actually trying to find solutions and be as bridge building as possible and saying, I don't want the money for this stuff. I just want to see my community do better. And I don't really see too many shows like that, So I'd love to see more men on your show because I do think you have a good show that does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't.
I feel like I think that like the perspective that I really want for my show is something that has to do with the very, very personal expression of someone's sexuality and sensuality. Like, I love that we talked about so many different things. I love that there were elements of sexual talk in this, but this show is about like your personal experience with sex. It's not about like.
Sounds like we got to start a new podcast. I see them in the chat saying, we got to start a new podcast.
Needs to be like something else. Maybe it needs to be the equilibrium or like the
I like it.
Women and men talk past each other. Like if I do have more people,
we should call it weak ass hoes.
Say what?
We should call it weak hoes.
Weak hoes. Dead.
Weak hoes.
Honestly,
weak hoes.
It's like, well, I understand that those direct statements, those are not my issues. Like my point was to specifically talk about how like those are usually said towards women, and you not once mentioned like, yeah, we gotta tell men stop being hoes, but it was like specifically about these women too. So it's like
no, that's not actually
things.
That's not actually what I did, but I understand again that we're going to receive and hear different, and I love that.
Not saying that that's only what you believe. I didn't say that's not only what you believe. I said, but that was said,
I understand what you're saying.
Like that can be taken away from men. Not saying that that is like your philosophy of life.
I understand what you're saying.
I just think that like that is what I mean when I was thinking about how things could be gendered and what to say. Because if those things are said directly, I think that's fine. But then those things should be said directly to people who are doing those things, which goes along the board of people doing those things. Which is why I said, if you are doing a lot of these things, if you are a promiscuous person, like, this is what it is. Not to say that, like, that little phrase, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is really the issue. It's like, how generalized are you making this to demonize this behavior in general, and not just continuously demonizing women, because that's what that word has always been used for. That's my point about that.
Yeah, and I think that we definitely, somebody got to have a conversation about male deviance. It has to happen, you know.
And I feel like that would be very important if, like, not to say that that'd be very important, if that's very important, number one. I think number two, I think it'll be very interesting if someone who considers themselves that, or someone who has had those experiences, comes on my show and talks and tells me about their personal experience. And the sex talk episode 13 to 14
that would be amazing.
telling me about how they have navigated life as this sexual deviant, if those things have changed, if those things are still happening, why it's still happening. Like, and that's why I was asking personal sexual questions, because even though there is this big, larger thing, you know, like, yeah, Yana the rapper, like all these big, larger things that we can put on these big platforms, like, it really does start with the conversation. It starts with the conversation of you just saying what it is and what your personal experience is, because people are going to resonate with you. They're going to resonate with your story. They're going to resonate with things. Yeah, they can resonate with your philosophy and your politics, sure, but people, when they find authentic stories about your personal life, they are going to resonate with that, and that can change the conversation. Someone who is admiring you can hear what you personally did, not what you think is bad because someone else is doing it, but something that you personally had in your life, and think to yourself, you know what, that happened in my life too, like, I want to change that too. Sure, we can always talk about politics, but what has happened to you, you know, like, that's really
right. So I think if I look at our conversation, and I just want to say I got to go in like 5 minutes. But if I look at our conversation and I look at the love we receive for this kind of conversation, I think that that's I said what needed to be said. I said what resonated, which is, man, let me tell y'all, survival will trump a lot of things. And therefore, this thing is set up for us to be horrible people, for us to just destroy each other. And at the end of the day, if everyone could look back at what they've done in their life and ask themselves, man, have I been the best me? Have I fallen in those potholes? And then say, well, what do I do now? Which is actually probably a great part of the conversation to end with. What do you do now when you have looked back at your life and said, man, I was not being the best me? How do you heal and then move into a space where you can really get your community to heal as well, which might not be everyone's agenda. Some people just give a damn about themselves. That's fine. But I don't think you and I are those people. And so in a conversation where you talk about personal experiences, and then you realize that there are going to be people here who have done amazing things and have seen so much bad and good, of which I think, man, I am a real good candidate for extreme bad. Like I said before, my sisters both had kids at 15. My father was a pedophile. I've seen people raped right in front of me. I've had life experiences that have allowed me to know this system is set up for us to bury ourselves. And when I look at how I have navigated that, I will give myself the flowers. And I will then say to everybody else, man, it's not too late. Even if you have put yourself in a lifestyle that didn't allow you to receive any fruits from the seeds that you planted in the ground, it's not too late. But it's going to take a few things. So I want to end with what I think. And I'd love to hear what you think.
Give them a road.
What I think,
reflection of what you said,
is the things that need to happen for this generation, because us old heads, we out. we out of there already. First thing is, I really do think you need to take yourself away from almost all things, not family, not mom, dad, those things. But take yourself away from environment. Environment change, I think, is a healthy thing. I think even if it's not permanent, I think taking yourself away, putting yourself in a space with the best ability that you can to see a different environment is a very, very healthy thing. Why? Because we all at some point in our lives live in bubbles. And the behavior in that bubble will dictate whether we grow or die, to be honest with you. And so once you leave that bubble, regardless of how long you leave that bubble, I guarantee almost instantly you start to realize that life has a whole lot more going on than what was happening in that bubble. So environment change. Second, I believe in an absolute social media detox. I believe you get rid of everything, even that old ass MySpace. Get rid of it. You know why? Because you've come to the point where you realize this shit ain't working and you need to pivot. And I do not believe you can properly pivot still attached to the things that were bad. And you need to get away. I'm not saying never get back on, but I'm saying, man, discontinue that social media. Detox. Just like how you would fast with food. Have a social media fast. Hopefully your business is not run through social media. So if you're not making money through social media, you should be able to go. But go for as long as you can. Go for as long as you can, man. I personally think no one should do less than 6 months. Why? Because I think on the other end of 6 months with no social media, you begin to have an entire priority shift. You begin to have a whole line of things that no longer matter, replaced by things that matter. The third thing is, I do believe things like changing your phone number are an actual good idea, which means what? The people who used to be able to DM you are now no longer able to DM you. The people who used to now be able to just send you a text and say something that triggers you to go back into whatever you're not happy with, change that number. Maybe blocking a lot of people works, but I find that blocking people doesn't do what you need to do. I believe a simple number change, and you will immediately find out who really love you. Because with no phone, hard to be like, to be found. Now you understand who really wants to find you. And that's a big leap. But I do believe if you're in a situation where you need to take a big leap, these things are great things. Also, a phone number change usually means you cut off a lot of friends. And so having a new friend circle or asking the universe for a new friend circle, I think is a great thing. Now, mind you, this is sex talk. So what I am really saying is you have sexually done things that you want to change and not do again. Whether it be with one person, whether it be with many people, you have decided, I need to get away. And I think that this is a great road for all things you need to get away from, and that includes sex. So shout out to everybody out there. I really do hope that this conversation has enlightened and has uplifted you in some way, whatever way that is. Definitely the people who follow me, may y'all follow Ayana, man. Yes, there's going to be conversations that might go in a different direction on her podcast, but that doesn't mean you're not going to not learn or be educated from other people's experiences. I just don't have those experiences.
Yeah,
and so
and I
my
mean, to
life,
add to yours too, it'll rewatching things in the past will also give you those roles. I think that detoxing, you know, separating yourself. We talk about travel all the time, so I know that like a change of a scenery is something that we both have done that has tremendously changed our lives personally. And then if you are talking about or want to learn more about things sexual in general, look at the other sex talks, look at episodes 1 through 11 that have literal roles and maps and practical things that you can do to practice, to work on, that can help you change those things about yourself, see yourself in a more enlightened sense, see yourself in a more empowering sense that reflects sensuality, reflects dignity in love, reflects dignity in flesh, reflects certain things that doesn't look like the mainstream media, because it doesn't.
Absolutely. And again, everybody, this is what is needed. Conversation, right? Bridges, big roads, nicely paved, working toward a healthy and positive goal. So again, to everybody here, your boy, me, I understand I have a bigger purpose. And so, Ayana, don't feel like you're the only person whose interview has gone this way. I do this with every single interview.
Okay, good to know.
Because I understand my purpose is way, way, way bigger than maybe a specific topic. And I understand that I get a lot more people to think when I begin to talk the way that I feel that I've been destined to talk. And so thank you for embracing my personal conversation choice and direction-driven purpose. And I love you, and I hope everybody follows you. And everybody out there, Carnival's over. I will be at Koyo Taco tonight, though. Yeah. Ayana came like 2 weeks ago.
I did.
And it's a vibe. Y'all stop playing. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say, man, as an OG Miami person, and it's 2 Caribbean people as well, yo, big up yourself. You know what I'm saying? You bring that vibe, and I love to be able to see you do whatever is in your spirit on that dance floor, whether it be super ratchet, crazy songs like pull out the stick, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is, man. It's a great feeling to have you in the building, and I always am blessed. And you know, I have to stop the show and give you a proper big up when you're in the building.
Which I love and appreciate.
Yeah, man. And so I hope everybody gains something from this, man. Shout out to y'all. Yes, Koyo Taco tonight. For the people who hated this conversation, I still love you, but I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna have my purpose put in everything, and hopefully you guys will follow me as well and see that we are all on the same page, regardless of how much how easily annoyed or how easily agitated or how easily hate driven you are. Let's get out of that. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to get anywhere if we are not all together working and understanding and contouring and loving. So again, I gotta go. Shout out to you, Ayana, and much love.
Thanks. Thank you for joining.
Big up. Yeah, my love. Cool.